I started visiting the Big Bend region in 1993. My father's workplace offered a group trip to this amazing area, and so I was included in a work-related team builder before team builders were even a thing. Many things about the Big Bend area have stayed the same over the almost 30 years that I've had the opportunity to experience this wildlife wonderland. Even some of the people working the concessions areas are people who I've grown up with over the last 29 years. At the same time, many of the global challenges we are facing have also impacted this remote and sometimes difficult to explore location. I thought about narrating this content in a way that brought glitz and glam and entertainment value to you, the viewer, but as I watched this compilation grow, I felt that the entertainment value was already a value added by the basic and complex situations that I was able to capture during a recent 2-week visit to Big Bend National Park. For an example, have you ever seen a thirsty egret sticking close to the rare and seasonal pool of water in the middle of a desert? So many things happen in a way where, if you blink, you probably missed it. I'm careful to put the wildlife first during my journeys, as it was my experience seeing so much wildlife even on my first visit that guaranteed I would return again and again to this beautiful oasis of solitude. Now, almost 30 years since my first trip, I can still be found putting together multi-layer trips to this dark skies certified location. Although my constant observations seem to tell a story of decline or shift in wildlife activity and in the climate challenges we are facing, I am hardly ever scared off from this area because of what I might encounter. In fact, it is because of these adversities that I go out of my way to distance myself from civilization in order to regain my own sanity, and to share these amazing experiences in a way that I myself like to enjoy whenever I have a bit of downtime and the need for even a virtual dose of the nurturing nature that we can find here on this platform. With our advances in technology, anyone who wants to can watch this and so many other amazing segments on the largest of smart screens, which in the past had been previously tuned into oftentimes less nourishing content. This is one of the few tarantulas I saw during my May 2022 trip to witness the lunar eclipse, which you're about to witness. To kick off this trip, I wanted to backpack South Rim using just a pair of sandals as my sturdy hiking attire. I'll let the rest of the segments narrate themselves, but until next time, please stay tuned for the second segment of this same adventure, which will be broadcast right here on the same platform next week at the same time. Hey, dear. It is Tuesday, May the 17th, and I think I just got all of the 20% of today's chance of rain. It was just a quick spritzing. I stayed quiet at first to see if you could hear the sounds of the droplets hitting the tent, but just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. So, anyway, just thought I'd capture that. My name is Ray, and I am up here in Big Bend National Park at Juniper Canyon 1. I'm half tempted to have recorded this inside of my tent because there are quite a few flying insects around right now. And that's in a way a good thing. You know, I'm seeing a lot of flies and gnats, and for sure the cicadas, the emergence of the cicadas has been pretty impressive. The sound when they start singing is pretty deafening. It's super loud. And everything around here is pretty interesting because many of these areas have been touched by fire. The fires that came through this park last year seem to have caused some opportunities for growth of other vegetation. One of the things I haven't seen while I've been up here are some of the larger animals like bears, mountain lions, bobcats, javelina, coyotes, etc., and so forth. Although, with as much foot traffic as this trail system receives, I sometimes wonder if most of those animals are actually up around this part of the park anymore. Anyway, whatever the case, it's Tuesday, May 17th. It is probably about coming up on 7 p.m., and I'm just finishing my day once again, where my plans are possibly to stay here until Sunday, although I have a feeling due to the food situation that I may not be here until Sunday. Whatever the case, my original plan was to also stay in the basin at Big Bend National Park the following week after I came down from this particular trek. But it really depends. It depends on a lot of different things in terms of what I do next. But what I'm doing right now is bringing to you a several minute clip that has pretty much everything to do with getting into the mix of things with the things that are here and trying to show you that it can be pleasant and also difficult and challenging at the same time. However, it's not something that's making me agitated. The less I talk and the more that I stay perfectly still, the less these critters will be attracted to me. And so I think I'm going to be signing off right now, but I just wanted to make another clip today that told you that, you know, I'm still here. I'm still facing some challenges of another sort, and I'm dealing with them as creatively as I can. I am in my Big Agnes Fly Creek Platinum tent, and this tent is pretty, I think, pretty amazing. It's super lightweight. Off the top of my head, I don't know the weight. I'll probably post that somewhere in the description or something. And if you don't set it up with the fly on it, you have a pretty amusing, pretty amazing view for the evening. For me, I'm going to be able to see the stars overhead through the tree canopy. And actually, since the moon is nearly full, I'm going to have a pretty well-lit surrounding forest to look into anytime I wake up. The interesting concept is that so will anything outside of this tent be able to look inside and see what's hanging out in their forest. So I hope that you see this video, because if you do, that means that I was able to post it successfully, which means I didn't turn into a bear burrito or something like that. And I just had a dragonfly a couple of moments ago hanging out on the tree above me. I presume that it was able to emerge based on that quick moving thunderstorm that passed through, and I didn't see really any of the rain from that. I just saw a couple of sprinkles, but I can tell that it rained pretty substantially in different areas around here. So anyway, part of the reason that I have the fly off right now is because if you watched in an earlier clip that I was showing about this tent, the tent seemed to capture a lot of flies in it, which I found ironic because this tent is called the Fly Creek. And so I put the fly in an unusual position, leaving it partially on and ready to deploy in the event that it rains. The only thing I'll need to do is find my headlamp and get outside of the tent with my sandals on and quickly affix the guy lines to the tent stakes that are already staked into the ground. So anyway, I hope that you're enjoying these clips. If you are, I would totally appreciate it if you clicked on the thumbs up and subscribed. And also, if you find anything interesting on this channel, please feel free to share the content with your own social media platforms. And that's really about it. No sooner did I sign off than I started to hear the rumblings of another thunderstorm coming this way. So I installed the fly. Thankfully, it's just before nightfall. And I'm going to turn this light off real quick so that no flies join us under the fly while we enjoy the show. Today's Wednesday, May the 18th. I've been at Juniper Canyon for 2 nights so far now, and today I want to talk about food. I did touch on food earlier in this segment, but I forgot to include a few important elements as far as what foods I brought. For an example, because they transport so easily, I brought bean and cheese tacos, and one of them I ate before I began my uphill journey, and the other one I packed and I had the following morning, which was fantastic because you don't really expect to have something like this up here. The last time I was in this campsite, I actually brought some bottled soda waters that were made with cane sugar, and they were quite heavy. But when you have a treat like that after a grueling uphill climb, it can be quite refreshing to have the satisfying taste of a sweet treat. Now, for this particular journey, I wanted to do something a lot different. I wore only sandals up to this backpacking expedition, And in my pack, I had another pack and also another full Camelback bladder, but that basically covers the hydration aspect. So I have quite a bit of water even now, even drinking it at a pretty good clip. Even downing the taco that I was talking about, which made me thirsty, I consumed quite a bit of water. But the reason that I'm not getting dehydrated is because my other foods include oranges, or in this case, they're like tangerines or nectarines. I can't really remember what they're called, but basically they're not full-size oranges like I'd been mentioning. They're but they're just like oranges. They're seedless. They're juicy. And also, in addition to that, this is the last one that I have, but I brought several tomatoes from my garden and okra. And the okra you can eat raw. I don't know if anyone out there is a fan of eating okra, but it's one of the things that grows really easily in San Antonio. And so I brought okra and tomatoes from my own garden. The other thing that I brought, which is very nourishing, very substantial in terms of feeding a hunger, is a bag of mixed nuts. So these are the things that I brought with me, and as you can imagine, eating mixed nuts can make you very thirsty. And so, again, I have plenty of water, adequate water. If I had planned differently, I might have tried to go a little bit crazy and try to figure out how to filter water in the events that there were chance rains up here. However, the water that's in these areas is primarily for the wildlife, which is understandable. You know, I'm a visitor into this environment, and I shouldn't be taking things that belong to the animals. So, or muddying up any of the stuff that belongs to the animals. So a lot of times we can try to filter water, but sometimes that requires digging down into the ground, messing up the area that was already developing with whatever ecosystems were in those areas of hydration. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on that. Today, again, is my third day up here, second night, third day up here in the mountains. I originally had planned to be up here for the third night, fourth day, but I arrived at the park at an hour where I found that I would be able to use my spotting scope coupled with this very mobile device to capture the lunar eclipse and share that with you. So I was able to share a clip before I made my trek up to the basin and before I actually began my hike. Today or tomorrow, I believe that I'll be heading to the South Rim. I know that I said I was going to stay put, but I also brought this portable backpack for a reason. And by staying put, what I meant was I'm going to stay in this proximity. It's not like I'm going to walk down to the parking lot and walk back up to here, which is about, 6 miles each way. Instead, since I've made it this far, I believe I'm going to continue on just a little bit further and enjoy the scenery from the South Rim and possibly some conversations with whoever might happen by. Yesterday morning, I had some deer visit me early in the morning and then late in the afternoon. I believe what they were doing was moving in the opposite direction of where the sun would be getting to later in the day. And then as the sun began to set, that's where they headed back to enjoy the cooler areas throughout the entire day. Versus me, who basically took my chair and moved it all around into the different shadows that were cast depending on where the sun was located. There was a lot of moving around yesterday, and every time I moved, that got the attention of eyes near and far, and that would bring, flies and gnats and all kinds of interesting things that would fly around and try to figure out what's this thing moving, does it have any food? And that was a little bit of a chore. So today, um, I think I'm going to enjoy possibly the same circumstances, but at the South Rim, where I can at least have the opportunity to photograph quite a number of different things that I see along the way. That way I can share that in this full-size compilation that I'll be putting together. If you're watching these segments in increments, thank you so much. This has definitely been a journey and a half, and it's not even halfway over. So this is going to be pretty interesting in terms of what I get to see. Yesterday, I got to help a cicada. You can hear the cicadas are starting. Listen. It's pretty interesting. They go in cycles and they start out in the morning, and then sometime during the heat of the day, they really all get into it and start doing their cicada chittering, chattering, whatever the noise is. And it is quite a sound to hear in the middle of a forest filled with these critters. The birds, I think, are enjoying the cicadas here and there, as every so often I'll see a bird with parts of one in their mouth. I've heard that this is a good time to find snakes, depending on where you're at in Texas. I've been curious if the cicadas are in the state park area, because there are areas of the state park where I would love to see a Trans-Pecos copperhead snake. That's probably one of the most uncommon sightings. The last time I was in the Big Bend Ranch State Park, I even talked with the park rangers. They didn't even know that there were copperheads in their park. So one of the things that I strongly recommend anytime you go camping anywhere, especially if it's in your home state, is to become familiar with the venomous serpents that are in your area. This will allow you the temperament and satisfaction of knowing that you are taking pictures of something that's either life-threatening or not. It's best to handle every circumstance like it could be life-threatening. And at the same time, it's great to have the knowledge, to have the wherewithal to simply be able to advise whoever your fellow hikers are what it is that you're looking at, so that you can pass along the education and information that sometimes is lacking in all of these hyper real shows that we typically watch. Speaking of that, I'm going to carry along my tripod and try to record some segments in the style of some of the other persons that I've seen on YouTube who seem to do a great job of entertaining their audiences. I feel like I'm not in the industry of entertaining. I'm more in the industry of just basically showing you what I'm seeing, because there aren't many people who are doing it the same way that I'm doing it, who are coming out to these places the same way that I'm coming out to these places. And so quite often I believe some of the details are being overlooked, even in our educational industries, where sometimes the text that's in the textbooks might be quite a bit outdated compared to what it is that's happening in real time in these forests right now.